Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. As I hinted in some previous videos, I am in London. This kicks off what is going to be a really great series of travels across the UK as well as Europe. And I'm in London, unfortunately not making it for Frieze, but I am here to see some of the really great gallery shows before heading to Paris. In fact, this video is going to be in two parts because there were so many incredible gallery shows in London. So I'm going to go straight to bed so I can wake up early and see all the galleries that I can in Mayfair. Before making it to the galleries, we wanted to get a quick bit of breakfast, and we found this really cute place in an alley by Gagosian and Almi and Resh. It's called the Rex Deli. I highly recommend. Really great, just farm to table food. I believe they do lunch as well. And we're going to start the gallery tour at Gagosian Gallery to see an exhibit of new paintings by the American artist Jonas Wood. If you're not familiar with Jonas Wood, he is a California-based artist who's known for capturing plants, family, and interiors in this highly detailed but flat manner. And this is due to the technique that he uses to create his works. Wood assembles photographs together and then draws them, and then from these drawings, he creates these paintings. The works in this show give us a really beautiful and intimate view into Wood's life, as well as other places and objects of significance to the artist, such as his childhood home or his pets that we see here. I also think the flatness he gives his objects really leans into the fact that he's telling a story in each of the works. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they're cartoon-like, but the flat technique does create an element of fiction that I find really appealing to look at and become engrossed in, like a story. Wood actually goes into depths about this exhibit on a podcast called Nota Bene, which I really love. So if you want to learn even more about the show, I will leave that episode linked below because it's a great one and he talks through each of the works and you'll just learn so much. We're going to make our way down the street now to David Zwirner Gallery. This is such a gorgeous space. This is an exhibit of paintings by the Colombian artist Oscar Murillo, and the show is titled, quote, "A Balancing Act Between Collapse and Spirit," which I feel really sets the tone for what this show is about. There's not a lot of text accompanying the show, to be honest. There's only a poem, which I will read for you in a moment, but I do want to share my personal interpretation of the show first. So these works really highlight Murillo's signature style of abstract work, where there's a strong emphasis on line and texture, and the color palette is strong. I would say stronger than previous works of his. There are these bold reds and oranges that are strongly cast against these darker forms underneath. And to me, this is translating as passion, potentially aggravation. And I think that's the set of emotions that Murillo's trying to convey in these works. And based on the title that he's given the show, which is a balancing act between collapse and spirit, I think that he's trying to capture the fragile state that our society is currently in. There's passion, but also despair. Honestly, not to be dramatic, but we kind of are at a tipping point, I feel like, between collapse and spirit. The exhibit continues to the second floor of the gallery, and here I will read you the poem that accompanied the show. This was written by Oscar Murillo in July of this year, and it says the following: "Darkness, a place of radical freedom, markings, reading, and sending telegrams, constellations of thoughts and gestures, untraceable landscapes, concealed, irrational, fields of despair, scarred, the playhouse of imperiled spirits. As our world becomes ever more hostile, I must go home and be safe. I send to you these telegrams, telegrams of sympathy, bruised and bleeding." These words started with the untimely departure of my mentor, Rouy and Hauser, in 2019. It was also the first time I thought of manifestations. Manifestations now need to be protests. A decade ago, on the eve of all the world's futures, we spoke of the artist as producer in times of crisis, a devastating crisis. We miss you. So for our next show, I was really excited to see this after seeing a little sneak peek at the recent group show that we saw at Skarstedt Gallery on the Upper East Side. I will be sure to leave that video linked above and below if you want to check that out. But this is a solo exhibit of new works by the artist Marco Pariani, and the show is titled Painting Bakery. And there are references to this all throughout the works in various ways, such as through the, quote, bold color compositions and graphic layering. So some of them, if you look closely, you can see motifs of gingerbread men and snowmen. And in general, Pariani was inspired by gingerbread house making competitions, specifically, the ugly patterns and these garish candy colors. But the concept of baking even spilled into Pariani's technique. So when layering the gesso with spray paint, resin, acrylic, and all these graphic icons, he also incorporated a piping bag as a tool for applying paint as well. So real dedication to the theme here. My personal favorite works in the show are these with the black gesso backgrounds, because I feel like they really ground all of the color and pattern that's going on within the rest of the work. I love any exhibit by Genesis Belanger, so I'm really excited for this one at Pace Gallery. I believe this is actually her first exhibit with Pace. I've seen a lot of her shows at Galerie Pariton previously. I will try to leave a recent one linked above and below if you'd like to watch that. But this show features 14 sculpture groups that explore the, quote, shifting complexities of self-curation, domestic labor, and our relationship with nature. So this show also features her most saturated color palette to date. If you are familiar with Belanger's work, you will know that she's normally known for creating these really delicious sculptures from porcelain in these light pastel colors. So the show also features a wider variety of materials than Belanger normally uses, such as stoneware, metal, wood, and even painting. Something that is always consistent in Belanger's works, other than them being incredibly aesthetically pleasing, especially at first glance, is that there are many layers, often with this sort of sinister or powerful message underneath the delectable delivery. So thanks to her background as a prop styling assistant, she mimics the techniques that were pioneered by mass media that utilize, quote, beauty, nostalgia, and humor to evoke psychological responses. However, in this case, she's not trying to sell us mascara. She's doing quite the opposite. She's making us question indulgence and consumption, especially in relation to nature and identity. So, for example, objects that we as women particularly use to communicate our identity to society, such as how we do our hair or the clothes that we wear, these come at a cost. So both monetarily, but also to the environment in terms of production and waste. And I also love how she doesn't play down the anthropomorphic qualities in her work. She makes it really clear that these are not just pretty works, but that they're trying to tell you something important and to make you think. In many of her works, she highlights elements of duality. So, a good example of this is the duality of consumption. So, many of her sculptures feature these delectable food items like cakes, as well as medications. And that highlights the tension that can exist between, quote, nourishment and medication, pleasure and necessity. This is a little spoiler for part 2 of this video. This is one part of this exhibit at Pace in this one room, as well as a video downstairs. And then the second part will be at Gallery Thaddeus Ropack, which I will share in greater detail in the next video. Our next stop is going to be Hauser and Wirth Gallery to see George Rouy's first solo exhibit with the gallery since they announced his representation. And this is also a two-part exhibit. So this is the first part, and the second part of the show will be on view at Hauser and Wirth's LA gallery space in February of 2025 during Frieze LA. So if you love this, more Rouy to look forward to. Rouy is known for creating these extraordinary figurative works. I've honestly been a fan of his for many years now, and this show continues his explorations of the figure to explore what it means to have an identity within the current state of society. So I think this concept has become increasingly more complicated thanks to the advancement of technology, specifically the expansion of the internet and social media. So I think that, in combination with fairly significant changes just with societal behavior, thanks to things like a global pandemic, for example, that caused things like increased isolation, maybe some social awkwardness and loneliness. The show is titled The Bleed, and it is a term that Rouy uses to describe the relationship between the figure and the void. Quote, "The paintings on view not only reflect the tension present between figures and their surroundings, but also the tensions and harmonies among individuals or group." The way that Rouy captures the dynamism of a person in his works kind of reminds me of the Cubists like Picasso and Braque, who were constantly on a mission to capture this fourth dimension. Or to say it in a simpler way, they were interested in capturing an entire subject and not just what they saw in front of their eyes or on a screen or on paper. So I feel like Rouy is capturing everything going on in the room between individuals. It's not just their physical presence, but it's their thoughts and their emotions and their secrets. Overall, I think Rouy does something that only few artists in our lifetime have been able to do with abstract painting. True and beautiful abstract painting, in my opinion, is when the emotion and not just the subject is captured. So some others that come to mind that do this well are Cecily Brown, Adrian Guiney, Joan Mitchell's another great one. Another exciting evolution of Rouy's work is captured in this painting, where he is exploring a monochrome color palette. So he calls these works phantom paintings, and by removing color, the focus becomes purely on the form, exploring elements of light and darkness and shadow and illumination. We're now at Carl Kostyál Gallery to see an exhibit by the American artist Austin Lee titled The Divine Fool. So this whole exhibit is an ode to painting as well as the artists that have inspired Lee's own creative journey, such as Giacometti, Ito Yukatu, and more. It's in this room that you can really spot Lee's references to some of his favorite artists. This is a piece called Blue, which honestly could be a tribute to Yves Klein even, as well as Giacometti's signature figure. And the gallery states here that, quote, "Here the artist's body and brush become one, evoking stillness and deep observation." The elephant in the room is a take on Ito Yukato's elephant, quote, occupying a space between the playful and the profound. And I think in general, that is honestly the perfect way to describe Lee's work, a space between the playful and the profound. We're going to make a stop for lunch at the Audley Public House. It is one of my favorite places to eat in Mayfair because it has all of the classic British food like fish and chips and shepherd's pie. And it was started by Hauser and Wirth, which is why you will see references to their artists throughout the pub. But my favorite is this beautiful mural on the ceiling, which was painted by the British artist Phillida Barlow. While we were visiting the Audley, we also found out that the gallery has just recently opened the farm shop, which is right around the corner, and it is really fabulous. It has this little cafe upstairs where you can get coffee and pastries, and then downstairs there is wine as well as a butcher shop. And this is where I'm going to end this video, but be sure to keep an eye out for part 2. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so you do not miss that second video where we will continue to see art exhibits in Mayfair in London.